Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we are one day before the national midterm elections, and today is all about politics. We're talking about it, folks. First, let's talk about, is voter apathy worse than voter suppression? Why some people are saying that voter suppression leads to voter apathy, and it may do more harmful effects than the actual strategy of keeping people from the polls. We'll talk a little bit about that. Also, I got to talk about what Elon Musk had to say as he has decided to go all Republican as he publicly addressed folks and saying that Republicans should take over Congress because there's a Democrat in the White House, bringing up the fact that shared power. He says shared power is good for the democracy. What's your take on this, folks? Is shared power good for democracy? We'll talk a little bit about that. And then later on, we check in with my brother, historian, scholar, and host of the African Heritage Network show, Michael Imhotep, to talk to us about some of the big issues that are driving mothers and driving community folks to the polls. And it's not about abortion. It's not about Roe v. Wade. It might be down to the economy and education. We have those conversations. So stay tuned. All of that and a whole lot more. So stay with us. That's happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Folks, welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Man, oh man, we got like a few hours before the national midterm elections. Woo! And the energy is high. There's a lot that people are talking about around the country, saying that this might be one of the most consequential midterm elections that this country has ever had. And as a result of that, there are a number of discussions and conversations about everything from issues to the state of democracy in this country. And so today we wanted to just present a couple of things. We have a couple of one-on-ones I want to have with you as the listeners, and let's have a conversation about a host of these things. Later on, we're going to be checking in with Brother Michael Imhotep, who is the historian and philosopher and scholar, to talk to us a little bit about some of those key issues. But here's what I wanted to kick off the discussion with, and you tell me, what do you think around the issue of voter apathy? Folks, voter apathy seems to be one of the big concerns, especially for Black voters, that people are not talking about as much as we may be talking about it on this space and in other spaces. But voter apathy is very, very real. And some of us may be pushing back on the idea of voter apathy because people are saying, well, how can you not vote? How can you decide not to cast the ballot in such a major election as this one? Well, let me just share with you what some of the concerns are, and really, what the larger conversation around this issue really is, folks. Because I think, and this is the question that I want to pose to you, do you think that voter apathy is more harmful than voter suppression? I'm just asking a question. Is voter apathy more harmful than voter suppression? Let's talk a little bit about it. Here's what the Grio reported around this. It says just days away from, and take a look at this, folks. It says just days away from the election day, poll watchers are predicting Republicans will see major wins, causing a shift of power in the United States House of Representatives, the United States Senate, and governorships around the country. This midterm election, 36 governor races, 35 Senate seats, and all 435 House seats are on the ballot. 36 governor races, 35 Senate seats, and all 435 House seats are on the ballot, folks. Wow. So there is a huge I mean, this is really, really big. And there are so many discussions, and I saw, pieces from New York Times to LA Times. Everybody's talking about what's at stake, right? And I think that when you look at the numbers, folks, and I know that, and this is one of the big reasons why I enjoy being on this platform, on this network, because of the national reach, right? The national implications. So I want y'all to just think with me for a minute on this. 36 governor races, 35 Senate seats, and all 435 House seats are on the ballot in this midterm. 36 governor races. I want you to think about this, because the governor has so much power. As much as this is a republic in a sense, the states still wield a huge amount of power, right? And so since the states still wield a huge amount of power, who's the leader of the state? The governor. You got these state legislators. These are where those policies, from education to healthcare to, a number of issues, they really land right there between the governor and the state legislature. So you got 36 governor races. There's only 50 states in the United States, 50. So you got all of these governor races. Now let's break this down, folks, and let's keep it real. Is a Republican going to win in every state? No, absolutely not. That's not going to happen. But it's just the fact that they might be willing to put up a fight, right? You got folks that are willing to put up a fight. Now, you got this much at stake, and then let's talk about what's going on in the House. The House right now is predominantly, of course, is Democratic, right? It's split down the middle, but it's about with that one vote is Democratic. With those representatives, it's Democratic. So when you look at the likelihood that some of those House seats could possibly be flipped, along with the likelihood that some of those 35 Senate seats could possibly flip, there is so many different varying scenarios on which way this situation can go. And more importantly, the larger outcome is who is going to wield the power, who is really going to have the power. And this is why I think it's important for us to have this discussion, because we need to look at, if we're deciding that enough is enough, right? And look, trust and believe, I understand why apathy exists. I'm not one of these people that say, well, I don't understand why you don't want to use it. No, I understand, because if you're getting lied to time and time again, why do you keep putting yourself back in a situation where you gotten so upset with the lies that you don't even want to hear someone utter a lie to your face, right? So I get the apathy, but I'm just letting you know what's at stake. That's all I'm saying. And as an intelligent viewer like yourself, you need to know, like, the potential implications that your vote may have or may not have, or your lack of voting may have, on a situation like this. All right, now look, let me take a look at this, and I want to get to your thoughts on this very quickly. So if you tuned in and you jumped in a chat on our streaming platforms of YouTube and Facebook or Black Star Network, and you want to be a part of the conversation, just post your comments, and we'll try to get to you as many of your thoughts as possible. But take a look at this, folks. This is the concern: voter apathy. Because as much as we know what's at stake, some of us feel like it's already, the election has already been determined. And that's why I've been pushing back on this idea, this narrative, that the quote unquote, the Republicans will win both the House and the Senate. Look, you start throwing certain things out in people's minds, right? Not just even about this election, and about anything. If you're applying for a job, if you are looking for a new opportunity, and if somebody throws into your mind, oh, the job is already, so-and-so already got it, is more qualified than the job, you might as well not even apply. If you start to entertain that, and it's not even definitive, it's a perception, right? It's not etched in stone. It's not the current reality. It's a perception. So if we start to entertain perceptions based upon what? Oh, well, it looks like it's most likely and people's predictions. What's this? You can look at political history and say, oh, well, I mean, they're in a better position. That does not mean that they are going to definitively get the House and get the Senate. It doesn't work. It doesn't have to be that way. But I don't want you to get wrapped up in entertaining the perception instead of working from the reality, right? I just don't want us to get caught up in it. And I think that's what happens with Black folks, right? This is a form of disenfranchisement. When you put it out there and say, oh, the Republicans are going to win, the Republicans are going to win, the Republicans are going to win, the Democrats don't have a chance. They don't have a chance. They're not talking about when you start creating doubt around these things, guess what's going to happen? Then people are going to entertain doubt, and then they're going to process it as, well, I don't need to go because the Republicans are going to win. So this is how voter suppression can lead to some form of voter apathy. Here's what I want you to take a look at what the president and executive director of the Law Committees for Civil Rights had to say under the law. It's called Committee for Civil Rights under the law. This is what he said. This is a gentleman by the name of Damon Hewitt. Mr. Hewitt was a panelist in as part of the Oprah just did an event, like a virtual event this past weekend, where she was talking to about 7,000 people, and she was expressing how she's very, very concerned about the state of democracy, the direction of the country, and in basically her event was called Own Your Vote. And Mr. Hewitt was a panelist, was one of the experts that she called on. This is what Mr. Hewitt said. Take a look at this. He said, put more bluntly, he said, as he said, when he told the Griot, and this was reported by April Ryan, but he said, put more bluntly, I hope and pray nobody gets hurt, and I hope people turn out and turn up with energy and excitement about being stakeholders in this important part of American democracy, talking about going to the polls. He said, voter apathy is a real concern in the American electoral system. During the 2020 general election, 62.8% of voting age people cast their ballot, according to a Pew Research Center poll. While turnout 2 years ago was a significant increase from decades prior, it still trails other developed nations around the world. Y'all hear me on this? We're trailing in terms of civic engagement. Our level of civic engagement trails other nations around the world. He said, quote, voter suppression isn't just about the hurdles they put in front of us. It's also about the collateral effect of those who get dispirited and don't try to get over the hurdle at all. The vote suppressors and election deniers sit back laughing. It's why we try so hard to normalize Black folks as stakeholders in this democracy. That's a lot. That's a lot to think about, folks. That is a lot, and I want to get you your thoughts on this. But I like the way Mr. Hewitt puts this. He puts this. The first thing is the health and well-being of a country is really based upon the level of engagement, the civic engagements of its citizens. How do you know if a country is governing well? How do you know if a country is treating its citizens well? There's a level of engagement. I've been reading reports and everything, but in terms of that metric, how engaged, how involved, how much are we a part of the participatory process of our democracy, right? Like that level of engagement. And when he said that, it just struck a chord for me, because it shows that if you're not engaged in this, and here's what I want to just kind of throw out there, folks, and then we're going to take a quick pause because then we'll come back to this. But here's the thing. If we aren't engaged in this thing, right, the very least in this country, you can cast a ballot and then move on, and hopefully you get involved in doing some sort of community work, you volunteer, you do something. But the least in terms of the requirements from this democracy is for you to go out and vote. That's the least, right? So if we won't do the least, y'all know where I'm going with this, then how can we do the most? in terms of building an alternative political space, an alternative political reality. And I'm saying for Black folks in this country, we've done this. We've done this. And I'm just simply saying, like, we can't be like, well, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. Because the reality is building a new alternative takes more work. Y'all see the point that I'm getting to? So this is something that we have to look. And again, we're trailing according to other nations around the world in terms of that level of civic engagement and participatory politics. We're trailing, which means that the health of our democracy isn't as strong and isn't as good as it could be. I'm going to take a quick pause and we're going to jump right back into this. When we come back, I'm going to play something from former President Barack Obama around democracy and really looking at, because this is the situation. And you know what? I've been reading a number of articles, folks, about what's really important. Do you know that even though President Biden has been kind of like pounding the pavement, he's been pounding the gavel around protecting, preserving democracy, do you know that's still not the number one issue for voters, Black or nor white? They're not, most voters aren't concerned about that. And so that is eye-opening for me, because if we're not concerned about, most voters, you know, they're saying voters are more concerned about everything from the economy to the education piece, right? People are concerned in terms of the political polarization that's in this country, but it doesn't take precedent over economy. It doesn't take precedent over the inflation. It doesn't take precedent over jobs. It doesn't take precedent. There's a concern, right? But it doesn't take precedent. And so it just goes to show us that we are in a very, very unique space. Look, I want to take a quick pause. I want to hear from you. When I get back, we're going to play this piece around that former President Barack Obama. And then I want to continue this discussion around voter apathy. Is it worse than voter suppression? Because voter suppression is one thing, but when you become so apathetic that you feel like I can't, I shouldn't, it won't make a difference, it won't matter, my vote won't be counted. Folks, this is the state, this is the local and state elections. Yes, the congressional stuff is important, not taken away from that. But there are some real big things on the table for local and state elections that you need to know. You need to know. So we're going to take a quick pause. When we come back, Online Culture Crew, I got you, getting your comments and so much more. Stay with me. Just getting started here on The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol. We've seen shots.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
We've got to stand up. Republicans are banning abortion rights, tearing down democracy, blocking progress. But when Democrats stand together, we win. Because we voted, Democrats stood up for black lives, voting to ban police chokeholds, stood up for black women, putting one on the Supreme Court, stood up for our families, lowering cost of health care and prescriptions and capping insulin, and stood up for millions by slashing student debt. This November, let's stand up together and keep making progress.
I am Letitia Hill Gadet, owner of Ottendorf Laboratories. In America, our freedom of speech and the right to peacefully protest is a wonderful thing, but faith without works is dead. Will you take souls to the polls? If you don't vote, all of your activities were done in vain. I am an ordained minister, a presiding elder in the AME Zion Church, a wife, a mother. I am spending my time and my resources to encourage you to vote.
Paid for by Ottendorf Laboratories.
Know your rights before you vote. If you have any questions or a problem voting, call or text 1-866-OUR-VOTE. For more information, call or text 1-866-OUR-VOTE.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Culture here on the Black Star Network. Having a one-on-one today with you because it's pre-election day. So since it's pre-election day, why not just have a conversation with you as the online culture crew, as you viewers, and y'all can jump into the discussion. You know, we're gonna try to highlight as many of our comments as possible, but I wanted to just have this discussion around various elements of participating in democracy, right? And so the big thing that I think that we were just kind of keying in on is the fact that there's apathy. And I'm asking this question: is voter apathy more harmful than voter suppression? Is voter apathy more harmful? Voter apathy is simply when you don't feel like you're not motivated to do something, right? You're not motivated to go to the polls. You're not motivated to try to determine what your personal politics are on a number of issues, right? Like you just go along to get along, right? But at the end of the day, it holds you back. At the end of the day, the way you're feeling about everything from the issues to the leadership to the systems that we're all a part of, it holds you back. And I understand, folks. Listen, Linda, listen. Okay. I understand. As a black person in this country, I get it. Even as a white person, I can only imagine, like, you're seeing things changing in the blink of an eye, and you're like thinking to yourself, is this for real? Is this really happening? And we're a part of a situation in this country where we are going to have to not stand on the sidelines anymore. We're going to have to get ourselves involved. We have to. You can't run away from it. You can't say, well, the system will work itself out. It doesn't. The system has some gaping holes in it, right? And what needs to fill the gaping holes is the people. When the system falls apart, then the people come together. It's just that simple. When the system falls apart, the people come together. And that's where we are in this country, right? It's the system not speaking to your interests, then fine. Work with other community members and folks that are in your neighborhoods to make sure that at least if it's not an interest that you see on a happening nationwide, that at least it's an interest that's being addressed locally and statewide or in your community. When the system falls apart, that's when people come together. But that's a part of this problem that we're seeing with this level of voter suppression that leads to voter apathy. And that's why I had to pose this question, because Black folks in this country, Black voters, are very, very concerned that as much as we have been talking about this, everybody doesn't watch Black Star, everybody doesn't love and watch The Culture, or Roland Martin Unfiltered, or Dr. Carr. They're not all tuned in. So Black folks are feeling apathetic. They're not excited, especially Black youth. We've talked about this. But we do have to ask ourselves the question, can we afford to sit on the sidelines and watch things go in the way they're going? Can we afford that? Can your children afford that? Do they have can they pay that price? Is their future worth paying that price of our inactivity? I'm just posing some questions. Let me play, Keenan and Ariel, let's play what President Obama had to say. He was in Arizona a couple of days ago, and talking to, getting people fired up, talking about, of course, what Democrats have done. But he also, of course, him being who he is, he also talks about the state of democracy. Take a look.
Arizonans who are just regular folks, Republicans, ask yourself, that's the guy you want in charge of your elections? Somebody who was part of an insurrection and it thinks it's okay for armed people to stand to intimidate folks next to ballot boxes? That's how America's democracy is supposed to work? Doesn't that override party labels? In Arizona, let's be honest with each other for a second. I know folks out there, including Republicans, may be thinking there's no way somebody like that's actually going to get elected. You may think that's too extreme for Arizona, but we've seen folks can win if we don't do our part. And if you've got election deniers serving as your governor, as your senator, as your secretary of state, as your attorney general, then democracy as we know it may not survive in Arizona. That's not an exaggeration. That is a fact. And that should transcend party labels.
Now, I like Barack Obama. Here's why I like him, because he's a thinker. He really is a thinker, right? The New York Times did this piece on him a few weeks ago where they talked about this manuscript for a book that he never published, that was never published, but this was something he written while in Harvard, him and another gentleman, and they talked about the state of democracy. And of course, this was like in the late 80s, like I think it's like 87 or 88. And he wrote this book along with his partner, and they looked at all the complexities of democracy. And one of the things that he often talked about is that level of participatory, a democracy where you have to get involved. But the thing that I love about him is the fact that he's a thinker about this stuff. Like you're bringing up, Mr. President, you're bringing up valid questions. Like you are a person that denies the election or the legitimacy of an election, but you still want to be a part of a system to, quote unquote, I guess, try to either uphold the laws or try to go in and inside to destroy the system, right? To what end? To what end? Because as last time I checked, and especially for Black folks and for marginalized communities, whether you're Black or white, Asian, Latino, LGBTQ, whatever the case may be, but for marginalized communities, what's the alternative? Y'all tell me, what's the alternative? Because we don't have an alternative set up yet. We've talked about it, but there's nothing set up yet. And I'm like the president. Let's look at the logic behind all of these efforts to bust up the system so bad that it becomes unrecognizable to the point where it may open the door for chaos. And again, we got to ask the question, are we in a position to handle that? I'm just throwing out some questions, y'all. All right, I've done enough talking because I want to hear from you. You know I enjoy y'all. So let's go to it. All right, we're looking at voter apathy. Is it worse than voter suppression? Corinna, you kicked it off, my sister. You said we cannot and must not accept defeat so easily. Never. Hey, crew. Corinna, you're absolutely right. I think that's the case. I think that's the case. Thank you so much, Corinna. Good to hear from you, sis. Sophia, good to hear from you, sis. You said, look, I don't think it's apathy versus miseducation, lack of education. We can't even have coherent conversations. Woo! Most people don't research or read, and now we're adding apathy. My God. Yes, we are adding apathy. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Coherent conversations, folks. This is huge. You can't even have, and I'm saying a coherent conversation is based or rooted in some facts. You can certainly give your opinions. You're not expected to have data, stats, and remember it all the time. But helping people to think clearly about their personal views and then what's going on with all of us, right? Coherent conversations. I agree. We get so upset with people for having a disagreement, with having a different view. And this is at the root of it, folks. At the root of it, this is problematic. Because guess what? There are differences in this country. It's interesting, and I'm just starting it. So I was a little bit hesitant about bringing this idea into the conversations today, but I'm gonna just share with you just a little bit of what I'm starting to learn. So I'm a work in progress and in this understanding. But I came across this weekend the idea of cultural pluralism. Y'all ever heard of this term? Cultural pluralism, which is a term that was coined by a professor by the name of Horace Kallen, a Jewish philosopher, a Jewish scholar. And he talked about, he had a great quote talking about that real democracy is being able to allow people to still hold on to their cultural expressions, their heritage, right? Without impeding, without asking people to completely give up who they are and their cultural identity, right? And we're recognizing that, we respect that, but at the same time, creating a system that that allows a person to be who they are, but at the same time being a part of something bigger than their culture, their tribe. And he says this is level of pluralism. Like, there is a group that that is working toward, they call themselves the New Pluralists. Y'all should take a look at it. And it's very interesting. These are a group of donors. These are people that have a lot of money who have decided to come together. They said that they put out this idea that they want to start to invest $100 million over the next decade or so, the next few years, to creating a different space for us to hold on to our differences, because we don't want to lose that, but still learning how to live in a space where we can live and coexist together. And it's based on this idea of pluralism. So back to the point that you're adding, and I think, Sophia, that's the thing, like having these conversations, like we're so afraid of different. It's like we got to start from that point of saying, you know what, we're not, okay, we're going to be different, but that doesn't mean that we can't live in the same place. And I'm saying that same place as we can't exist in the same country, that we can't work together, that we can't build together. And one thing that Mr. Horace Kallen points out is that the ultimate goal of cultural pluralism is being in a union, is unity, right? This level of coming together in a certain boundary, right? But not making people all the same. There's a difference. So we can be united, but we don't have to be the same. And I hope, and again, I'm still learning about this because I thought this was pretty fascinating. So I'm throwing that into the mix because there has to be a different view of how we're seeing. Just throwing it out there. All right, let's take a look. Janae, you say, hola, Janae. Happy pre-election day. I love it. Thank you. Happy pre-election day. Apathy is real all over. People don't like their jobs, yet they continue to go. Just do it. Put a smile on it. We'll feel better. You're right. So if we're apathetic about everything else, then I get you, Janae. You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. And I love it. And I think that if we're at that point, which I believe we are, we have to figure out, one of the things that just a little tool that I use, and I don't know if anybody else does this, but one of the tools that I use is that when I start to feel down or anything, I try to figure out, let me think, instead of thinking about the worst things can get, the worst part of a situation, let me figure out what is the best part of the situation. What is the silver lining, right, of this dark, dark cloud? What's the silver lining that I need to learn? If we try to approach democracy and looking at the state of democracy and looking at where we are in this country, right? Like, what is the silver line? There's still some silver linings. This as much it is a moment of uncertainty, a moment that's scary, but it is in those moments that the greatest feats can be accomplished. Like, this is also a moment of opportunity. This is a moment of change. This is a moment where we can have some different conversations about who we are and what we believe in. This is a very, very good moment. This moment of uncertainty is a sign that something is falling apart and something is rising up in the same time. I'm not sure if I'm upset about that. Are you? I don't think we should be upset about that. All right. So I just want to throw that out there. Rashida, thank you for checking in. You say only the weak-minded will think it's over. I'm voting tomorrow with a focused mind. Right, folks. Rashida, I'm with you. I got my ballot, everything. I'm excited. I'm going to be casting that. I'm going to be mailing that ballot in. But you're right. I'm not thinking this thing is over. I don't care what the pundits say. And I know some of you might look at me as a pundit and be like, oh, hey, you don't have to listen to me. I'm just telling you, the game ain't over until it's over. Y'all know what I mean? Who said the Republicans got to win the House and the Senate? Who said that? Well, I'm just looking at the situation. Here's the thing that most pundits and the people in these they don't keep this in mind. And I see this time and time again. They make these vast predictions and prophecies. And the thing that they don't keep in mind is the sentiment of people. We're all human beings. So they don't keep that situation in mind. They don't think that we think. They think, oh, we pump out this information, they consume it, therefore they're going to think based on the information, not knowing that, guess what? There could be some new information that interrupts that process, or that people can change their minds, or that somebody can get so excited and say, enough is enough, I got to go out and vote. So I'm not accepting that either. Shalinda, you said some of the black folks that do the least complain the most too. Come on, how about that, sis? How about that? We got to stop complaining, guys. I don't know about y'all. I'm tired of complaining. I'm tired of being angry. I'm tired of complaining. I'm tired of always feeling like the man got his foot on my neck. I'm not operating from that space anymore. We're going to do something different. So I'm with you right there, Selecta. Will, you said it's simple. It's simple. People just not going to invest where they don't feel a part of. But here's the thing, and I agree with you on that, Will. Here's the thing about this situation, though. If people understood that even if they don't invest, they're still a part of it. And guess what? Here's the kicker. They're still going to feel the effects of their non-investment. So we have a situation. They're gonna feel it. Now look again, this ain't the presidential. This is the state and local elections. This is state and local stuff, right? That we're seeing. So people are going to feel it, whether they feel like they're part of the system or not. If you don't want to be a part of the system, essentially, you're going to have to be 6 feet under, because when you are alive, you are a part of the system. You might say, I ain't a part of the system. No, bro, you are a link in the chain. And that's just the reality of the situation. So here's my thing. I'm not talking to people about voting because of history and legacy. I'm talking about voting to people because guess what? If you work, if you live, if you play, if you are a part of if you live in any city, if you are guess what? Something can be changed to make your life a little bit better, right? And it's better for us to speak from that space, because the people may not connect from the history space, but they could connect from, is your quality of life good? Or have you or a family member had a problem getting a job because why? The draconian laws won't allow you to get a job if you've been in prison. Have you or your family member had a good quality of life in spite of the fact that in certain neighborhoods there's a food desert? I mean, there's a ton of issues. Well, thank you for bringing that up. Tiana, you said because some people don't see the whole damn picture and don't realize once inflation goes away, prices are still going to stay the same, but you might have less rights than you did a year ago. Right. Woo. Come on, Tiana. Come on, sis. Come on. Tiana, I'm with you. Look, I don't know. I'd rather have higher gas prices and better rights than lower gas prices and no rights. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I'm gonna pay a little bit bucks on at the pump, but I ain't got extra years to give to try to get some rights back. Come on, no, we're not doing it. And then you know what I think, Tiana, that speaks to the short-sightedness, right? The short-sightedness of what we expect from this system. This system doesn't work that way. Look, we're fighting to keep voting rights, right? We're fighting to restore and to protect the Voting Rights Act after 50 years. So you mean to tell me that after 50 years, that something like that, which we all assume would continue to be protected, continue to be preserved, right, can be taken just like that? And now we're at a point that we're like, oh man, we need to do this, we need to do that. But the gas prices, though, are getting better. Okay. So a loaf of bread goes down $1. Gas prices go down 50 cents. But your humanity, how much is that worth? Okay. Thank you, Tiana. Victor, my guy, you checked in. Victor, you said when we get organized and come out in large numbers, that's why that these haters know that we are nothing to mess with. Let's come out tomorrow and vote like our lives depend on it. Well, let's say this, our lives do depend on it, Victor, in some way, shape, or form. I'm not just using that just to talk. I'm serious. Like, the quality of our lives depend on it. I can't have election deniers standing in governor seats and secretary of state seats and mayor seats. I can't have election deniers standing in places where they're making decisions about the livelihood, my life, the livelihood of my children and my family, my wife. They're gonna make the decision based on their crazy ass view of what the system's trying to take it back. Boy, we're not going back to 1902, 1922. We ain't going back to that. I'm not doing that. I refuse to do it, Victor. Refuse to do it. Thank you for checking in, bro. Karen, you said it. Karen, good to hear from you, sis. You said not exercising the right to vote or being denied the right to vote will result in oppressive legislation affecting the Black and poor who will suffer the most. The severity needs to be emphasized. Come on, Karen. Come on. See, when we don't vote, we feel it, y'all. And I'm not trying to gas this thing up, man. Y'all, you know what I'm saying? Because I know that some of us have some very real grievances against this political participatory politics. I get it. Trust and believe I get it. I get it, right? But here's how I view it, and y'all can disagree or agree with me on this. I'm not going to let my apathy dictate or my apathy stop me from using every tool I possibly can to gain something, to make some gains in this situation. Now, I'm not of the mindset that if we vote, things are going to change. I don't think any one of us should be in that space. I'm going to say it like that. I don't think any one of us should believe that if we vote tomorrow, that by Wednesday or hell, by next year, that it's all going to be well and good. It's not. It may not be. But I'm using every tool in the toolbox, starting with my conscience, to make sure that I'm not trying to see certain things that we got to put up a resistance for against some of the crazy and maddening things that we're seeing in our political space right now. From election deniers, from the racist CRT policies, I mean, everything, right? Like, we got to put up some resistance to this stuff, man. Some resistance. So you make an excellent point. Thank you, Karen. Chris V, you said voter apathy is worse. My God. You're pretty much giving the green light that it's okay for people to come into office that could detrimentally affect your livelihood with policies and laws if you don't vote. Chris, I couldn't have said it better. I couldn't have said it better. See, when you don't vote, here's the other thing I learned about, because of voting, there is a cost to voting. How much somebody should do a piece of, like, how much is the American vote cost? What's the cost of the American vote? Now, here's why I'm posing it like this. Because when we don't vote, then it's like we're not a part of the financial conversations. Because a lot of stuff is happening right around us, from everything from redistricting to whether there's investment in the neighborhoods, all types of financially tied efforts that are happening right now as a result, right, of voting or not voting, right? So, like, for example, in the census, when they do the 10-year census, they count the people up in an area and all of those things, and then the lawmakers look at those numbers and say, okay, they do their thing, trying to figure out how to finagle, how to get certain boundaries and how to move districts and redraw the lines and gerrymander, and all of that stuff starts to happen, right? But then those communities that have historically been denied resources, they continue to be denied resources, right? And those communities that have historically not voted, they're not even mentioned. They're not even a part of the discussion. And I'm talking about I'm talking about all across the country, folks. This is what's happening, right? Black and brown communities, poor communities, communities with marginalized members of various populations, they continue to be denied one and one. Vote apathy and vote suppression. All right, let's keep it going. Chris, thank you for the great comment, bro. Thank you. Alexi, oh, good to hear from you, Alexi. Sound like you were a first-time watcher. It could be determined by the fact that there are no candidates that represent your needs/interests, and voting based on lesser of two evils may not always work. Aha, brings up a great point. What do you do in a situation like that? Well, I say you still try to vote as close as possible, finding a candidate, even if it's like a third wheel candidate. You know what I'm saying? Like you know, the two powerful, like the Republican and Democrat. But even if you say, okay, I'm gonna go vote for so and so and such and such, I mean, consciously, and I'm saying this, and I know some people probably, you got to vote blue, you got to vote this, you got to vote that, and I get it, but I don't want to be putting myself personally. I don't want to tell people what to vote for, because I truly believe that you are empowered when you learn to make your own decisions. Make your own decisions about what your interests are. Right? That's the beauty of this. Make your own decision. You don't have to talk. Yes, I'm a talking head, right? You might, Farajii's. No, I want you to be empowered to trust your decision making when you're going to vote. and you find the candidate that you support. You see what I'm saying? You find the candidate that you are aligned with. And I mean, it's hard for me to believe that there is no candidate, right? No candidate that you can cast a ballot for. There's no candidate that's speaking to your interests. Okay, because I think most of us are talking about the same thing: the economy, schools, crime. Then you start to get to little the nuances based upon where you live and certain things. But the big ones: economy, school, crime. You might throw in health because of COVID is still around. We might talk about national security. We might throw in a little bit of white supremacy being an issue. But the economy, schools, and crime, and jobs. We got to throw jobs in there, right? So I think we're a lot that we have. And again, going back to this idea of pluralism, going back to this idea of recognizing the differences, like as much as we are different in terms of our ethnic makeup, where we come from, but essentially we still want decent places to live. We want to be able to support ourselves, right? With the cost of living being at a reasonable rate. We want to be able to find a job if we're in the market for one. We want to be able to make a decent wage, right? Like, these are basic things, man. I don't think anybody could be like, well, I don't want a decent school, or, I don't want. These are basic things. Sophia, you said there's no system without people. People need to get educated, and that's the problem we're having now. Little to no quality, informative education. People have been educated. We had a better look. I'm a baby of the 80s and 90s. We had probably a better education then than we had now, just because of all of this stuff now. People are educated. Here's what we're not as strong in: making our own decisions, making good judgment. You know what I'm saying? And I think this is why culturally, and I'm so happy, like with Professor Horace Collins, he talking about cultural pluralism. Like, this level of the culture has dictated, it has either encouraged people to think, or it's encouraged people to be dumbed down. That's the culture. Our culture is like, oh, be this way, be that way. But if once you're educated, and I'm talking about seriously educated, once you're educated, education should open up your ability to be able to make your own decisions and see things for yourself. Janae, you said we did get on the same page for Obama, but people forgot about midterms, then blamed him for not doing enough. He couldn't. Absolutely. We did get educated. We did get on the same page, right? And Obama, he played the role that he played. He did 8 years. We liked some of his policies. We didn't like some of his policies. He played the role for 8 years, but this is a different time. Different stakes are higher. McCall, thank you for checking in. You said we can't afford to be apathetic when it comes to voting. There's too much at stake: women's rights to choose, criminal justice reform, education, economic reform. We have to stay civically engaged. Yes, 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 and yes. Mike V, my point is 1 out of 3 black men between the ages of 18 and 55 can't legally vote because they are politically disenfranchised. Getting people on the same page, my question is how? Real quick, you talk to their interests. 18 to 55, what are you thinking about? You're thinking about jobs. You're thinking about family. You're thinking about school. 18 to 55, what you thinking about? You're thinking about retirement, right? You're thinking about legacy and generational wealth. You talk to people's interests. And then once you determine what your interests are, I think, Mike, you just say, okay, well, what candidate is in alignment with my interests? Because it's not just about the moment. Like, me as a man, I can't just say, oh, okay, this is important to me. I got to think about the 2 little babies coming behind me, the 2 little babies I'm raising. So we got to think about that. You first start the conversation with your interests. Then everything comes out after that. David, you said drawing a racial color line in politics wouldn't be considered a calamity by Frederick Douglass. Those cheering all Black Americans to vote for a singular party are encouraging his nightmare. I'm not inviting you to, but just think about what is at stake. What's at stake? Do you have a greater chance with Democrats or Republicans, depending on the issue? That's all I'm going to say to that point, to your point, David. Do you have a greater chance with Republicans or Democrats based upon history, based upon current policy. Who speaks to your interests as a black man, as a black family? Republicans or Democrats? And clutch and stick, you said Donald Trump managed to get all the pro wrestling fans out to vote and wrestle the police in D.C. on January 6th. So much for their vote of apathy. They were apathetic. You're right. Apathy keeps you in a state of paralysis, right? You're just like, you're not even moving. What you saw was a different level of engagement. Yes, it was wrong. It was crazy. It was wild. But guess what? They got up and said, enough is enough. And we got to say the same thing. Enough is enough. Now, we ain't got to destroy the Capitol, but damn sure can tear up the ballot box. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's continue this conversation, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Let's continue the conversation on the other side. Let's talk a little bit about shared power as Elon Musk, the chief twit, has said that he's going all Republican this go around, and guess what? He believes it should be that way because there's a Democratic president and that shared power is good for democracy. What's your take on this? Is that the case? Is shared power good for democracy? We'll have that conversation. Also, we'll be checking in with Brother Michael Imhotep in the next hour as well. So stay with us. A lot to come at you here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
It's time to know your rights. If someone is questioning your right to vote, call or text 1-866-OUR-VOTE. For more information, call or text 1-866-OUR-VOTE.
I am Letitia Hill Gadet, owner of Adendorf Laboratories. In America, our freedom of speech and the right to peacefully protest is a wonderful thing, but faith without works is dead. Will you take souls to the polls? If you don't vote, all of your activities were done in vain. I am an ordained minister, a presiding elder in the AME Zion Church, a wife, a mother. I am spending my time and my resources to encourage you to vote.
Paid for by Adendorf Laboratories.
Know your voting rights. If you are unsure where to vote or don't know if your polling location has changed, call or text 1-866-OUR-VOTE. For more information, call or text 1-866-OUR-VOTE.
We've got to stand up. Republicans are banning abortion rights, tearing down democracy, blocking progress. But when Democrats stand together, we win. Because we voted, Democrats stood up for black lives, voting to ban police chokeholds, stood up for black women, putting one on the Supreme Court, stood up for our families, lowering cost of health care and prescriptions and capping insulin, and stood up for millions by slashing student debt. This November, let's stand up together and keep making progress.
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation and joining us. Man, it is pre-election day, folks. That means that we're having some different conversations, just a little one-on-one we're doing here with you as the online culture crew, first-time voters and first-time viewers and folks that are just want to have these conversations. We're having these conversations because guess what? Out of all the things that are happening, you don't always need to hear from the talking heads, folks. You don't always need to have somebody try to tell you what you think you should know, what you think you should do. Look, I'm that guy who truly believes in empowering people to make their own judgment, especially when it comes to this issue of politics, right? Like, make your own judgment, because guess what? You know what your situation is. You know what works best for you in terms of for you and your family. And more importantly, you know what your conscience calls for. That's the place that we're in. Like as much as I may disagree with you, but guess what? I want you to be able to look at yourself in the morning and rest well at night to say, you know what? I did what I thought was the right thing to do. Because I can assume that I know what the right thing is for you, but the reality is that may not be the case. That may not be the reality. That may not be the situation. So I would rather empower you. And here's the other thing. Here's why I think this part of having these type of discussions are so important. Because if you don't make a decision, right? If you don't make a decision about which way you want to go, or you don't make a decision about a stance you want to take on an issue, right? If you don't make a decision, you really won't ever have full ownership, won't feel any sense of ownership about your future. In this country, we have a problem of allowing other people to dictate what's important to us, allowing other people to tell us what our future should be. And I'm tired of it. I want to push back on that. I want to push back on that narrative. We're grown-ass people. We're adults. We pay taxes. We go to work every day. Even if you don't work, you contribute in some way, shape, or form, right? But we're grown-ass people. I want you to feel empowered that when you go to the polls, or if you've already gone, that you know that I try to do the best thing that I can. I try to vote in the best way. I try to participate. Now, what's going to happen afterwards is we're going to have to figure it out. But I don't want us to get into this space like we can't trust our own judgment, we can't make our own decisions, and most importantly, that we can't take control of our own future. That's not cool. Not cool at all. All right, here's the other part of the discussion. So we talk about voter apathy and suppression. I wanted to have a discussion, and folks, you can certainly post your comments on our Facebook page or as we're streaming there on YouTube. We're streaming there. Go to Black Star Network. You can see what we're streaming. You can see the conversations there. And, I want you to think for yourself, folks. If nothing else that you get from today's conversation, think about yourself. Now, I'm not saying selfishly. I'm talking about thinking about what's good for you, what's good for your family. And that's it. That's it. That's all that matters. If it happens to be that your values align with my values, it's beautiful. Even if your values don't align with my values, it's beautiful, because at the end of the day, you still activated, you still engaged, you still participated in the process, right? And we just got to figure out a way that we can still live and coexist with one another in a common way. Does that make sense to everybody? I hope so. All right, let's talk about this other element. So Elon Musk, y'all know who Elon Musk is. Billionaire, Mr. SpaceX, Mr. Tesla. Elon Musk has gone on the record to say he's voting Republican. And as a result of him voting Republican, he said that he thinks that it's good for democracy. Let me take a look at this. This is coming from Fox News, folks. Take a look. That he made an announcement over the past months after he first announced plans. Take a look. I recommend voting for a Republican Congress. He said after he first announced plans to vote Republican earlier this year, he argued today that having a government split between two parties is ideal and noted President Biden's possession of the White House for Democrats before saying Congress should go to Republicans. He said, quote, take a look at this quote here, folks. Take a look. And Ariel, if we could post this quote. To independent-minded voters, shared power curbs the worst excesses of both parties. Therefore, I recommend voting for a Republican Congress, given that the presidency is Democratic. Y'all hearing what I'm saying? He's saying that he recommends voting for a Republican Congress, given that the presidency is Democratic. This is what he wrote on Twitter. Do you agree? And Ariel, let's just make sure we post put that question in the lower third. Do you agree? Do you agree? Is shared power good for democracy? I want you to just think about this before y'all respond. Let me know. Is Elon Musk going to one over the cuckoo's nest? And I'm just pulling up some stuff here, folks. So, we're in dialogue to get to today. So you say, well, what are you looking at? I'm looking at my laptop. But do you agree? Is shared power good for democracy? Thank you, Ariel. Is this good? Do you agree that maybe we should? Because I can't assume what's going on through Elon Musk's mind. I'm not even going to try to take a ride through that situation. I'm not even going to try to take a ride through that joint. But do you agree? It is absolutely essential. I get what he's saying, because I'm getting to a point where now this partisan bickering is so toxic. It's like having a bad person you're in a relationship with. It's just so toxic, right? Like, it's too much, bro. You're doing way too much. So toxic that it's like, where's the balance? We getting so much of this and so much of the left and so much of the right and all of this stuff. Where's the balance? Here's my only thing on this, folks, and y'all share your thoughts. With the last time we saw a Republican Congress and a Democratic president, if I'm not mistaken, was when President Obama was in office. And as a result of that, guess what happened? Nothing was done. I'm not going to say nothing. That's a broad generalization, right? So I'm not going to say nothing was done. It was hard for the president to speak to our concerns as Black folks, as oppressed folks, as marginalized folks in this country. It was hard for the president to come up with policy. Of course, we got the American Affordable Care Act, the Affordable Care Act, ACA, the quote unquote Obamacare. We got certain things, right? So that was good. But it was like rolling a boulder. It was like rolling a boulder uphill to the point where it just became a real problem down the road. So the point is like, do we accept that, or do we just say, okay, let's try to figure this out? It's the only way to get progress, to make any type of political gains. Is the only way to do that is when one party is in control of everything. And I think to Elon Musk's point, guess what? It might sound good on paper, but because of the parties being so toxic the way they are, right, at this current state, that if you had a Republican Congress and a Democratic president, that it's going to be a gridlock on policies and ideas and a whole lot of other things. What's your take on this, folks? What is your take? Post your comments as we have this conversation. Let me just hear this. Let me go this, and I want y'all to just see it. My man King Keenan, he said, "You're right. Nothing was done." It was hard, man. It was hard during that whole period, especially from 2012 to 2016. Right? Y'all remember, like a lot of the police shooting. Like there was really hard. Like it was hard to just even having conversation around police shooting Black people. during the time when police shooting black people. Now now that was before Trump even got into office, right? It was hard to face the reality, face the facts of that situation, right? Even though there was some policy drafted, but nothing was passed, right? But can you imagine trying to have like coherent, and back to the, I think it was Yusufil, to imagine having coherent conversations with people who don't even agree, that can't agree on the legitimacy of the elections. Can you imagine having coherent conversations about, it's just, I saw a term like Trumplicans. Y'all heard that one yet? Like you got Democrats and then you got Trumplicans. Like what the hell is going on with the other party? Right? And like Democrats got their problems. I get it. But it's like this thing here is just morphing into something crazy. All right, let's go back. Let me hear what you got to say. Tiana, you said, I refuse to listen to a man who got finessed out of $44 billion. He needs to concentrate on Twitter, not sinking. Well, he didn't did he get finessed, Tiana? You say he got finessed out of $44 billion. He needs to concentrate. Look, the reason that they gave that they allowed the sale, I think part of it is the fact that he's so active. He has such a strong opinion about various things that it brings more to the platform. You know what I'm saying? Like he could say certain things. But here's the thing. I think that there might be some credence. And Tiana, I want you to just walk with me on this one, sis. There might be some credence to what he's saying, but this may not be the time for us to see that reality. Because you know why, folks? Just like my shirt say, no one cares. No one cares. And because no one cares, we're going to continue to see this gridlock in our political system. All right, let's go. Bobby Means. Bobby, good to hear from you. I think you might be first-time viewer. I'm sure you've been involved in the chat. You said the Republicans don't care about us nor the country, but you have these idiots who support them. It's sad. The only thing they want is power. Yeah, man. Look, here's the problem. And Keenan, I want you to cue this thing up. We're going to take another pause in a few moments. But well, actually, let's just play it now. Let's just play it now. Here's what the Lincoln Project put out around this issue. As we look at this, and you wonder why the shared having two groups, the way Elon Musk share power may not be good for democracy. Take a look at what the Lincoln Project. These are Republicans. These are not Trumplicans. These are Republicans. But take a look at the messaging they're putting out now as a result of Trumplicans. Take a look.
America thought it was better than this. Better than weaponized hate and political assassination attempts. An example to the rest of the world, blessed with a tradition of peaceful, fair elections. Then came MAGA. Violence, hatred, and cruelty replaced the old Republican Party. When white nationalists, radical domestic terror groups, and QAnon crazies became the backbone of their MAGA party, millions of Republicans said, enough. Biden won with their support. Country over party, one last time. Soon, Trump will return. The worst of MAGA's extremist wing will dominate Washington. What you decide now decides what America looks like for a generation. You're making a choice. Their America or our America?
Damn. Their America or our America? See? They didn't tell you who to vote for. They just put out the facts. And then guess what? Called on you to use the best of intelligence to vote however you see fit. But you got to use the best of intelligence. I like it. But you got to ask yourself, what America do you want to live in? What America do you want to live in? There are a lot of other places that Black people can live, but y'all know how I feel about this. We built this country. So I'm not leaving it. We built it. So we got to figure out what America it is. If there's going to be shared power, there's got to be some cleansing. There's got to be something different because the shared power won't go as well. Damon, you said this, brother. You said in an ideal split party system, yes. If it floats from one to the other, each side will get something. However, each party is toxic and these divided administrations get nothing done. And nobody wants to go through 4 years of getting nothing done. Nobody wants to go through 4 years of political bickering and wrangling. Nobody wants to go through 4 years of gridlock. Nobody wants to do that. This country is dealing with some real shit. Let's keep it real. I'm sorry to say it in that term, but I want to keep it real. We're dealing with some real stuff right now. People are on the brink. If not, they have already fallen on the cliff. We are losing it in this country. So we don't have time. We don't have the liberty to play around. Again, if it was a shared situation, it would be one thing. But since it's not shared, it's something else. Nisa, 1971, my sister, good to check in. Good to hear from you. You said they allowed the sale because they saw dollar signs. Twitter has a rough valuation of about 1/5 of what he paid. And nah, Elon, you need to do better. Look, I hear him. Hey, look, I'm not mad because guess what? You know what the number one, you know where, when it comes down to the economy and inflation, do you know where, based on recent polls, where Americans stand? They stand with Republicans, believing that Republicans are more fiscally responsible, meaning they know how to handle the money better. Well, I'm sure they do know how to handle the money better because they do a lot of backdoor deals, just like Democrats. I mean, look, come on, that's not acting like this is some new stuff, man. But we always tend to believe that if you're conservative, that you know and rich. And here's the thing, folks. Here's the thing. Some of you are really good with money. I know that. I know some of you are work in wealth management, with your financial advisors, or even though you're really good with money. Let's just say this. Just because you're rich doesn't necessarily mean that you're better. You know what I'm saying? Just because you got a little bit more than some of us doesn't mean that you are better. You could be just as grimy and shady than someone that is not rich, that is not quite as wealthy. But some reason we have attached wealth with moral authority, and that's not true. We've attached wealth to good character. Not true. So, you know, if people want to say, oh, they know how to handle the money, they don't know how to handle the money that's for their interests. Do they know how to handle the money and being able to distribute the money, distribute resources, right, for other people? That's the real question. Yeah. Let's take let me take a couple of new thoughts on this. Conscious thought, my God, you said we are dealing with an evil Republicans that only seek subjugation and subservience. And if we know that, how do we deal with that conscious thought? See, Elon, I think, is trying to work from a space where we are all on the same page, or we're at least we're all. Elon, you know that we're not. Look at your platform. Look at the divisive language. Look at the terms. Look at how people interact and engage on your platform. You know that at this present moment, these political parties are they're really not in the best shape. We know that. We know that. So we can't act as if like something new is going to happen. It's going to take work, folks, for this country, for our country, to get to a place of sanity. It's going to take some work. The question is, are we willing to put in the work? Are we willing to do what we need to do to get to that place? Respect America. You checked in. I love the fact I'm seeing some new watchers. I appreciate y'all for that. Respect America. You said, is Biden the last Democrat president? Ooh. Respect America. You know, I remember there were questions about that when Trump got in office. I don't know if you heard those conversations. I remember there were questions about that when Obama got into office. And I've certainly heard that to be the case. Over these past 2 years, this has been one of the most tumultuous times in American history, just in the past 2 years. Do y'all know that? I was reading some a report today from the New York Times, and it was talking about this. Like, if you think about if everything with January 6th and just how things have gone, and it has accelerated, right? It's crazy, the level of partisan bickering, the level of partisan division it is in America just over the past 2 years. Now, it's been leading up to that. This is not in a vacuum. It wasn't like in 2016 we were all kumbaya and we were all on the same page. It's led up to it, but we're seeing more of it now. And the great concern that many people have, both black and white in this country, are saying, okay, if the past 2 years was hard, Lord Jesus, what's going to be the next 2 years? What's going to be the next 4 years going to look like for America? We got to ask ourselves this question. DeAndre, Respect America, I appreciate you for posting that question. DeAndre, you said Democrats are weak and focuses too much on media canceling stuff rather than fighting fire with fire. Sometimes you got to get down and dirty to send the right message. Words alone only reach so far. So here's the thing, though, on that, DeAndre. The thing that I see is I think Democrats are trying to fight the culture war just as much as they're trying to draft new policy. The culture war is becoming the tool of choice for both parties. This is why we have to have conversation about the culture, because this is the thing that is driving people's behavior, driving people's thought process, shaping people's views. The culture that we're all involved in, the culture that we add to, the culture that we take something away from, the culture, right? And if the culture is one where people are feeling a certain way about a certain topic or issue, right? Then guess what? That culture is going to dictate policy around the very sensitive topics, whether it's about LGBTQ or whether it's about cannabis, whether it's about reparations, around certain sickness. Guess what? There's no precedent, quote unquote, right? Because this is like new ground for a lot of people in this country. So since there's no precedent on certain things, right? Guess what they're relying on? They're relying on the culture of us. What's the sentiment of the people? So then if you are a lobbyist, right, and you're like, okay, I want you to vote for this direction or vote for that, right? Then you got to figure out, like, this is all working in tandem, because it creates a situation where it's like, okay, we see certain things in Hollywood coming out of Hollywood. We see certain things coming out of the music industry. We see certain things coming out of the news, right? I mean, all of this is shaping our view of the world, right? And it's putting us in a position where we have to recognize that our mindset is being played upon. This is not no conspiracy theories. This is not about, oh, somebody's trying to brainwash us. But the information that we're taking in, we have less trust in government institutions. There's less, this is according to Pew Research and other places, we have less trust in media. So how do we stay informed? How do we get a definitive, or more importantly, an accurate view of issues? Well, we get them from our family and friends. We get them from the networks that we're a part of. We're getting them from the media that we take in. And all of those things are being shaped by other people, other institutions, right? The culture is huge in this conversation. Huge. It's like, you know, the other leg of the discussion. You can have politics, you can have money, you can have good schools, but you can't forget the culture drives the sentiment around all of those things. That's how powerful our culture is. Take a couple more, then we're going to take another break. Willie, you checked in and said, when we really look at it in history and Republican control, we do worse than Democrat control. Republicans being good on economy is rhetoric. Yeah, we do worse. And Willie, it really just requires you to figure out, okay, what my interests are and which party speaks better or is more amenable to those interests, right? Is it going to be the Republican Party? Look at how the Republican Party treat Black voices. They mock us. Black men are mocked. I'm not talking about the policy. I'm just saying the presentation. You got a Tim Scott. You got a Herschel Walker. You got other Black voices. You got a Candace Owens. Like, look at the caricature that is being made of these people. Now, I'm just looking at just from face value, folks. We look crazy. We look crazy. So we gotta be very real and honest. The Democrats, I think the Democrats do better, you know what I'm saying, in trying to humanize the Black voice, humanize the Black experience. But you got to know what your interests are. Look, none of this matters if you don't know who you are, what you want, and what future you want to have. None of this other stuff matters. If you don't get down to the brass tacks of that, then nothing else will matter. Marissa, thank you for checking in. Good to hear from you, Marissa. Sound like you're another first-time watcher, or at least being a part of the chat, and I appreciate it. You said, I'm worried that if Trump runs for 2024 presidential race, he will not leave after his second term. I think these Trumpers want to demolish democracy and run this country like a dictator. I wouldn't be surprised, and yeah. And look, if Trump, y'all know, here's what I said, Marissa. I don't know if you heard me say this, but guess what? We got a bigger problem if Trump is allowed to run. So a man can do all of that. He can be a part of conspiracies. He can be a part of insurrections. He could be a part of election tampering. He could be a part of fraud. He could do all of that stuff, and he could still run for president of the United States. Oh, I'm not even thinking about no party. I'm thinking about the principle. I'm thinking about the fact that you got a criminal, right? I mean, yeah, we can say, oh, they're all criminals, but I mean, this is a legitimate criminal running for the highest seat in power in the land and trying to dictate, trying to take some moral authority on issues that affect us. That's the problem I'm seeing, Marissa. You know what I'm saying? Like the fact that you can even be allowed to be on. Man, oh man. Look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. So, man, you have been checking in, and I appreciate it. But I Marissa, that bothers me more than anything. If the country allows him to even apply to run, I got a problem with that. If the country allows him to be even on one ballot in one state, I got a problem with that. That just goes to show you we need to come up with a different strategy then. At this point, you just basically said, F y'all, we could do whatever we want. We're the board of elections. Okay, bet. Let's see if nobody votes, how that fits. Let's see if we create a campaign where we telling no people to vote. How does that fit? Oh, no. It ain't about what we got to make sure Trump don't. No. I'm talking about drastic, dramatic stuff. Like, that's crazy. That would be crazy. And I know they're saying that he's expected to run or at least announce a run for 2024 by November the 14th. Folks, y'all really hear me? After all this, he could still announce? We're going to take a quick pause. We're going to take a quick pause. Look, stay with me, man. We've been having a great conversation. I've been enjoying having my one-on-one with you. Let's continue the discussion on the other side. You're tuned into The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shootings.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys. This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
Know your voting rights. If you are unsure where to vote or don't know if your polling location has changed, call or text 1-866-OUR-VOTE. For more information, call or text 1-866-OUR-VOTE. Exercise your right to vote. If the lines are long or you're getting turned away, call or text 1-866-OUR-VOTE. For more information, call or text 1-866-OUR-VOTE.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We got a few moments left, and I'm so happy that we were able to at least have some one-on-one. I see some people in the chat. I see you people in the chat. I know some people like, I'm going to vote for Republican anyway. Somebody say, oh, Farajii, you are just spreading Democratic doo-doo. What? I didn't know doo-doo had a political affiliation. Be professional, Farajii. Don't get petty. I mean, seriously, is this spreading Democratic doo-doo? Was this just asking people to think? I'm not telling you what to think. I'm just saying think. Look. Let's just keep it real, folks. Don't let nobody tell you that you can't think for yourself. Think for yourself. I didn't look, if nothing else, that's the part of this process that we cannot avoid or act as if it's not important. The ability to think for yourself. If you vote Republican, then know what you're voting for. Know what you're being a part of. If you vote Democrat, that's fine. But think for yourself. Like one of the things that has been tripping Americans up, all of us, right, is that we don't know how to think for ourselves to make critical decisions. And I'm saying en masse. Of course, I'm not saying that we're all stupid. I'm certainly not going to insult you. I'm just simply talking about thinking for yourself, thinking about what's at stake, thinking about the issues, thinking about the candidates. Think for yourself. And then if you come to the conclusion like, hey, this situation isn't working for me, then you find a situation that works for you. I'm not going to throw no fear in your face because I hate being driving people by fear. I'm not going to throw anything in your face so I can compel you to think other than what you think is the best thing for you. All right. Think for yourself. All right, Willie, my guy, you said let's shout out the poll workers. Mine was mostly black and looked like they weren't going for the foolishness. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Big shout out to all the if you're working at the polls tomorrow, and I'm glad, Willie, you bringing up this point. If you're working the polls tomorrow, big shout out to you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day or taking time out of your schedule to do something like this, because it's not easy. I've done voter like poll work. Being there for 10, 12 hours is not easy. You're dealing with, and my experiences has been pretty good. But I know that in some of these districts and states, it can get crazy. I can only imagine what poll workers are going to have to deal with come tomorrow. Early in the morning, you bring in a riffraff, jokers outside possibly standing around trying to intimidate you. Man, look, stand your ground and do the job and let people know how to vote. Stand over here. Thank you so much. Let's continue to look. Don't bring the riffraff, but the poll workers, big shout out to them. Big shout out to them. Let's go back to the comments because so many of you are checking in. Let's go back to the comments. All right. Let's continue to talk about this. So we've been talking about the whole Elon Musk thing, right? We've been talking about this. And I think that it's important that as we've been talking about the Elon Musk situation, that we stay clear about what's really, really important at this point. All right, I wanted to take a few minutes to check in with my brother, get his take on what's going on with this, the voting and just with this election. Tomorrow, I will let y'all know we're going to be doing a number of some coverage of this election. Y'all know, just tune into Black Star Network, starting with us here on The Culture, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be rocking and rolling. Then, of course, with Brother Rolling at 6 p.m. And then we're going to have some round the clock coverage throughout the evening tomorrow with yours truly, and many other voices are going to be on a panel tomorrow. So I want y'all to tune in tomorrow as we have this voters' night conversation, and as we talk about what's expected. I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to it, and I want you to join us because we're going to see have a lot of discussions about the state of democracy, to talking about the issues, to talking about the candidates, and more importantly, to talk about what is the future for Black politics, right? What is the future for Black politics? And of course, if we are able to get some results, because a lot of these races are going to be so close to call. New York Times, put it out there that, the last midterm election that we actually had, it took 2 weeks to get all the results and to get all the votes, to count all the votes and everything. It may take that much longer. It may take that long this go around. It may not. I don't know. We might see an explosion of new voters coming out for this midterm because of everything that's been happening. But tune in tomorrow, and definitely don't want to miss the coverage. All right, let me bring in my brother. He is a historian. He's a scholar, and I'm very, really happy that he's able to join us just for a few minutes as he serves as the host of the African Heritage Network show.
The African History Network show.
African History. I always get that wrong.
Yes. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, brother Mike. Well, I apologize. I always get that wrong. I'll be thinking of this history and heritage. So
man.
my apology.
I'm late, man. I just finished voting early because I got to fly to DC tomorrow morning because I'll be on Roland Martin's 6-hour broadcast tomorrow. I'll be in studio, and I had to get a haircut also, man. But this is a crucial election. This is the first midterm election since an insurrection took place since the 1876 midterm election, the year after the Civil War ended. So much as that state democracy is on the ballot. You have at least 299 Republican candidates who are election deniers. They're going along with the big lie pushed by Donald Trump. And when we look at the House of Representatives, for instance, the Democrats must retain control of both the House and the Senate. I don't understand. I don't know if many people know this, but to be Speaker of the House of Representatives, you don't have to be a member of the House of Representatives, which means that if Republicans take back control of the House of Representatives, these coup plotters could literally vote for Donald Trump to be the Speaker of the House of Representatives, which is dangerous. This elevates.
Wait a minute, hold on, bro, Michael. Wait a minute.
People don't understand
I didn't even
what
think
the hell
about
is
that.
going on. People,
brother, I didn't even think about that.
Yes, dude, this is serious. This is serious.
Wait a minute. Hold on, bro, because I don't want nobody to just glaze bad past that. Donald Trump could become a speaker.
Speaker of the House of Representatives, yeah, because you don't have to be a member of the House of Representatives to be elected as Speaker of the House of Representatives. You just have to get 218 votes. It's a simple majority, 435 seats in the House of Representatives. If Republicans take back control of the House, that means they have a majority. If they all stick together and 218 vote for Donald Trump or anybody else to be Speaker of the House, he becomes Speaker of the House of Representatives. Okay, not only that, to be able to get more bills passed in the House of Representatives. Most of the bills that we've gotten accomplished, everything from whether you talk about the Inflation Reduction Act, whether you talk about the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan, which saved the economy. Okay, Republicans keep talking about inflation, but they don't have policies that will help fight inflation, number one. Number two, most likely their policies will make matters worse. Now, this article right here from the New York Times, everybody needs to read this and check out. Hold on, let me see. Pull this one up here from, where are you? Right here. Pull this one up from the New York Times. I'll put it in the chat here because I don't have screen share. I don't think I have screen. Do I have screen share capabilities? Present. Maybe I do. Screen share. I don't, but pull this up on the screen. This article here from the New York Times: Republicans denounce inflation, but few economists expect their plans to help. This is from October 26, 2022 from the New York Times. And they go through and break down. They talk to economists on both ends of the spectrum, liberal economists, conservative economists. And they're saying that the policies that Republicans are pushing forth will have very little effect on inflation, if anything, in the near future, number one. Number two, most likely it will make matters worse. Because when you listen to them, they're not talking about anything that's going to attack inflation, and they voted against the they voted against the Inflation Reduction Act, which allows Medicare to negotiate drug prices. It caps the price of insulin at $35 for seniors. Okay, you're going to have savings when it comes to energy savings for homes. It lowers insurance premiums as well. Okay, there's a good article from Forbes.com that deals with the Inflation Reduction Act. Here, the Inflation Reduction Act is now law. Here's what it means for you. Okay, so this is going to help people save money. This will help African Americans save money. And every Republican in both the House and the Senate, over 260 of them in total, voted against the Inflation Reduction Act. You can pull this up on the screen. That's from Forbes.com. Yet they're running around yelling and screaming about inflation. Okay, so you have some people, some African Americans that don't watch the African History Network show, don't watch The Culture with Farajii Muhammad, don't watch Roland Martin Unfiltered, but they're still running their mouths saying we didn't get anything for our vote, things like this. Now they have their head stuck up their ass. They don't read. Okay, but read this here from whitehouse.gov. Now, I talk about this often. I don't know anybody else that talks about this document. It was last updated June 19th, 2022. This is a 22-page document that walks you step by step. This is for the simple Simon asses out there. It walks you through step by step and shows you how the policies of the Biden-Harris administration are benefiting African Americans. The Biden fact sheet. The Biden-Harris administration advances equity and opportunity for Black Americans and communities across the country. Take this, screenshot it. You can scroll down, show it to people. $5.8 billion for HBCUs. I repeat, $5.8 billion for HBCUs in 2021 alone, a record amount of funding. You had 33%, a 33% cut to Black child poverty. 1 million African-American children were lifted out of poverty because of the child tax credit in the American Rescue Plan. Now, that expired, okay? No Republicans in the House or the Senate voted for the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan that rescued the economy. We can get that back, but it has to pass the House and pass the Senate. It takes 60 votes in the Senate. You get 52, 53 Democratic senators. You can now do a carve out to the filibuster or change the filibuster rules to make it a simple majority. Okay, right now you need 60 votes in the Senate. Okay, this is why the John Lewis Voting Rights Act did not pass the Senate. It passed the House of Representatives in August of 2021 by a vote of 219 to 211, and no Republicans voted for the bill, not in the House or the Senate. 50 in the Senate voted against the bill. You had 211 voted against it in the House. They yelled, they cried when John Lewis died, and they talked about how great John Lewis was. You have Herschel Walker, who saw brain damage. He doesn't know which chamber of the legislative branch of government John Lewis was in. He said John Lewis was the greatest senator, one of the greatest senators. He never served a day in the Senate in his life. And then Herschel Walker, brain damage Herschel Walker, then said that to name the bill after John Lewis is a disgrace. John Lewis wrote the majority of the bill. Okay, this is what's at stake. They're running Herschel Walker in Georgia, picked by Donald Trump, because they want to attack Senator Raphael Warnock. They just want to get the dumbest black man they can to get white Republicans to vote for him so they can say they're not racist, because they want to maintain control. They want to get control of the Senate back. This is a crucial election. I know people are telling African Americans vote to exercise your right to vote. You don't vote for exercise. If you want to exercise, you go to the gym and vote. You vote for power. This is about power. Power is politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. Herschel Walker is Herschel Walker is a national security threat. Republicans in control of either chamber of the legislative branch of government, the Senate or the House, is a national security threat. Okay, you had 147 Republicans who voted to overturn the 2020 presidential election results, 147 of them. Everybody go to congress.gov. At congress.gov, you can look and see, you can look up these bills. George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, everybody talks about. No Republicans in the House of Representatives voted for that. That vote passed in March of 2021 by a vote of 220 to 212. And the only people that voted for the bill were Democrats, because they're the ones that wrote the bill. You need to get that passed in the Senate. That's why it's so important to maintain control of the House, so we can get these bills, continue to get bills passed in the House, and maintain control of the Senate as well. There's a good article from New York Times that deals with the 147 Republicans that voted against certifying the 2020 election results. Okay, and there's also one from Vox.com. This is the one from the New York Times. I'll post a link here. So read this information. This is critical. You vote for policies that are beneficial to you, beneficial to your family, beneficial to your community, beneficial to African Americans. What's good for African Americans is good for America in general. We need to look at, when we look at these candidates, whose policies are most beneficial for African Americans, whose policies will do the least amount of harm, whose policies are the most realistic in getting passed, who can we push the farthest and get the most accomplished, who will vote to protect gains that have already been made. One of the biggest mistakes that we make is we don't understand the concept of protecting gains. So we think a bill is passed, okay, like Roe versus Wade, but don't realize that a conservative court can overrule this. The judicial branch of the government interprets law from the legislative branch of the government. That's what happened with with the Dobbs decision, and the 6-3 conservative court, okay, then strikes down Roe versus Wade. So we have to understand how to protect gains that were made also, because these people are trying to take us back to 1890 in the Mississippi State Convention, where they voted to impose poll taxes and literacy tests in the state of Mississippi, and African Americans were the majority of the population in the state of Mississippi. And when that happened, that became the model that other states used to southern states to rewrite their state constitutions, to knock us out of political power, knock us out of elective office, and suppress the African American vote. So this is crucial. This is not, we don't vote for exercise, we vote for power, and this is what this is about.
Hey, Brother Michael, first and foremost, I appreciate you for pointing out all these pieces.
I think you're muted.
No,
did I hit
can you hear me now? Hold on, make sure.
I can't hear Farajii. Did I lose connection?
I can hear you, Michael.
Okay, I can't. What the hell? I can't hear.
All right. Well, let's hey Keenan, let's get him.
Okay, can you all hear me?
Let's get Michael technically.
I can't hear him anymore.
All right. Here's we're gonna get on this, but here's the thing that I appreciate what Brother Michael just talked about. One is talking about the seriousness of the situation. Two, I love the fact that he pointed out the New York Times piece, 147 Republicans who voted, who basically are election deniers. So there it is. 147 Republicans who voted to overturn election results. This is crazy. A fringe idea has become mainstream, then the mainstream idea becomes a fundamental element of the party. Come on, man. And it's only happened within a 2-year time span. 3 years. 2 to 3 year time span, folks. So we're looking at a very, very serious situation. I love the fact that many of you are checking in. Rashida, you said these midterms are making people ignorant and dangerous. Ignorant and dangerous. You're absolutely right, Rashida. Sis, you're right. And how do you deal with that? Because lies has that power, right? Lies can make you ignorant, and lies can make you dangerous as well. So what do you do to rebuke, to counteract that? You talk people, you speak truth to the people. You also you empower people to make their own decision and their own choices, right? You help people to see what their interests are. You don't tell them what their interests are, but you help them to understand their own interests. So that's where we are. That's where we are. So much is at stake, folks. And I don't know how many times we're going to be able to say it, but so much is at stake. I'm good. I'm happy with the fact that we're in this place right now where we can at least see it for ourselves, that this system of things is falling, and this is an opportunity for us to build something new, right? Like this system of things may have possibly run its course. This is a different conversation. We don't have time to cover it right now, but this system of things may have run its course. And what did I say earlier today, folks? When the system fall apart, the people should do what? Come together. We have to come together. We have to come together. When the system falls apart, it's the people that come together. I want to make sure I get my brother Michael back into it. There we go. We got you. Brother Michael, can you hear me? Now you on mute. Hold on, we got him on mute. We're going to get it together, though. We're going to work it out. Michael, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Man, we're having technical issues right now. It's all good.
Okay.
Hey, Keenan and Ariel, let me know what we can do to hear Brother Michael. And no, we cannot hear you. We cannot hear you. We're going to take a look. We're going to just. All right, we're going to bring him back in. Chris, you checked in. You said, I bet 90% of these election deniers behind closed doors say it's BS what they're doing. Of course. Of course. These are people that's been a part of the system for years.
Okay, testing.
There we go. We got our brother back.
All right. For some reason, I don't know why it switched back over to the microphone, but I'm running through my mixer and everything. I don't know why I switched. Yeah, this is a crucial election. This is, and 2016 was a crucial election. That's why I was explaining to people in 2016. They didn't think Donald Trump was going to be as bad as he was. They thought Hillary was going to win. All that. I'm like, no, you don't understand math. Okay, so what's important for us to understand is that we got to put this information on social media. We have to get people out to vote as well. Yeah. But to stay engaged after the election is over with. That's the other thing. And personally, with me, I think African Americans should be really focused on taking over the Democratic Party. Okay, if we can't take it over, become a powerful power base inside of it, like the Tea Party became a powerful
right.
So that we can push agendas, we can shape the narrative, and also we have to get control of some of the money that is being used to finance candidates, and we also have to have an infrastructure where we can finance many of our own candidates as well that the DCCC does not want to finance also. So this can't be this is not business as usual. Okay, this is crucial. We're fighting for self-preservation, but on the other side of the election, this is an outright fight for power. Okay, and
hey, brother Michael. Yes. Brother Michael, when we have these conversations, right? And how do we put these conversations into perspective? Because I know there's some black folks out there that are still like, y'all are advocating for us to take part in the system of things. Shouldn't we let this thing fall apart? Should we not vote? What's your response to that?
And most of those people that say they have no plan for when this system falls apart, they have no plan for when their Social Security checks stop coming. They have no plan for when whatever benefits they have stop coming. They have no plan for what happens when they go to the bank and the bank runs out of money. All that stuff that sounds good on social media. Okay, when we dealt with the lockdown, and things were shut down and people couldn't get services. People couldn't go, the grocery store didn't have food, all that stuff. All that sounds real good on social media when you know you about to get paid tomorrow, when you know you can go to the grocery store and buy some food. Okay.
Facts.
Yeah. And most of the people pushing that nonsense are trying to sell you something at the same time. So say that for somebody that ain't been there. I mean, it's just like people that say we need to separate, but they're still here, haven't gone anywhere. I've been hearing we need to separate for 30, 40 years. And most of the people that say they haven't been anywhere. So it's like, come on. Run that on somebody that don't know the hustle that you're running.
Wow. And see, and here's the thing though, bro, Michael, because I mean, like you, and I agree with you. We don't have an alternative at this point, right? We don't have no backup plan. So we got to figure out, either we create the backup plan, we build something, but then we still got to deal with the here and now, right? Like we still got to deal with the present moment, right?
You still got to deal with that. You still have to deal with this monetary system. You still got to deal with all this. A lot of people get caught up in escapism. That's why they turn to drugs. That's why they turn to alcohol. It's escapism. Okay. And one thing we have to one thing we have to understand is that throughout history, drugs and alcohol, things like this have been used to suppress a people's will to fight back. Okay, so we look at marijuana dispensaries in our communities. Yes, marijuana should be legal because it was made illegal in 1937, largely because of Harry J. Anslinger, who was the first chairman of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, and he lied in his testimony to Congress, and he said that white women crave black men sexually when they're high on marijuana, and he was a virulent racist. And he led a campaign against marijuana. Yes, it should be legal, but that don't mean we should use it. Marijuana should be legal. Prohibition didn't work. Marijuana should be legal. I mean, alcohol should be legal, but that don't mean you should get drunk. Okay, so we have to understand the difference. But we have to ask the question. Okay, so why do we have liquor stores on every other corner in our community, and then we have marijuana, a proliferation of marijuana dispensaries, right? And then we have fast food restaurants on every other corner, keep us obese, drunk, and high. This reduces your ability to want to fight back. Okay, so we have to be much smarter than that. We have to understand history, politics, law, and economics, because they're all related. History, politics, law, and economics, and deal with things that are practical. Okay, so we have to support African-American owned businesses. We have to get involved in politics. We have to get involved in politics at the local level, the school board. Stephen K. Bannon, who was Trump's campaign manager during his 2016 campaign, part of it. Stephen K. Bannon said that the road to political power in this country now is through the local school boards. And this is why you have right-wing organizations that have been radicalizing parents at these school boards and pushing conspiracy theories, getting them to push to ban books. It started out as protests against COVID-19 protocols and wearing masks, things like this. It's morphed into an attack on critical race theory. This is all being funded by dark money. It's all being funded by right-wing organizations promoted on Fox News. Okay. And we don't see this stuff coming. We don't understand how all these pieces are connected. All right. And they're using that to galvanize a lot of these right-wing Republicans, a lot of these white parents, to galvanize them to gain political power at the local level, and then take that power and go up. Okay. State level, federal level. We don't understand how all this is connected.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, Brother Michael, we got a couple of moments left. And I'm looking at this, looking at some of the comments. And Carol, you brought it up. You said election fraud wasn't an issue prior to Trump, and neither was fake news. That's what's up. From day one, Trump was crying fake news. At this point, Brother Michael, you know, now that we are in this point where just Trump tainting the results of the election the way he did, we may never get back to that place of seeing the elections as legitimate. Is that a good assessment of where we are right now?
That's part of the plan. Now we can get back to them by defeating Republicans. That's why you have to be able to identify threats and stop them. Okay, and that's why these Republicans have to be defeated. And these election deniers have to, that's why they have to be defeated as well. And also, this is why more of us have to get really involved when it comes to working the polls. When I voted today, you know, it was mainly African Americans in there who were working. They did a fantastic job here in the city of Detroit. They did a fantastic job. They were courteous, things like this. But they're professional. But what's happened is because of threats, because of the right wing intimidating people, we've had a lot of veterans, a lot of people who are veteran poll workers who have stopped, not just here in Detroit, but I'm talking about nationwide. They've stopped because they said it's not worth it, things like this. We have to understand that they are trying to suppress our vote, and we have to fight against this. Very quickly, if you look at the state of Florida, right, and Florida's Amendment 4, which was to restore voting rights to felons, right? 1868, the Florida State Constitution of 1868 imposed felony disenfranchisement. They did this, they said, to prevent a Negro legislature because black people made up 48% of the population of Florida in 1868, 3 years after the Civil War ended, because that's a legacy of slavery. They were trying to lock us out of gaining political power. So they not only instituted felony disenfranchisement, which means if you're convicted of a felony, you lose your right to vote. But they also expanded the number of crimes that were classified as a felony as well to target us and lock us out of political power. That goes back to 1868 in Florida.
Wow.
Visit my website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. Be sure to register for my online classes. I'm teaching one today, 6 p.m. and then Thursday, 7 p.m. As well. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what it didn't teach you in school, and from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Yeah, scroll down, keep going. That's information about my radio show, the African History Network show. That's PayPal and Cash App. Keep going. Keep going. Okay, so we got the information for the classes here. Yep, keep going. And it's going to be at least 10 weeks instead of 8 weeks. Okay, so we got the classes there on sale, $80 each. And this one right here, keep going. That's Understanding Transatlantic Slave Trade, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. And this one right here, From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power. That's the one. So I'm teaching another session of that today. You can register for those. We do the sessions online. We do the sessions live. They're archived and recorded, so you can go back and watch them anytime as well. Even after the course is over with, you can watch the entire class.
And also, Brother Michael, you're going to be on with us tomorrow as we have our voting coverage, our election day coverage.
Yeah, I'll be in studio. Yep.
There it is, folks. That's it right there, folks. Black votes matter. Election night 2022. Kicks off tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard, all the way to 1 a.m.
Yep.
I'm going to be on there. I'm going to be on there for like the first hour, but then I'm going to be moving around the city of LA to see what's going on with the with voting and everything. Because we, of course, got a big election here with the mayor, the mayor's race with Karen Bass and Rick Caruso. So it's a lot of stuff that's happened.
Exactly.
A lot of stuff.
And Republicans are lying about crime. And Republicans are lying about crime, and they're running a Willie Horton 2022 strategy to scare white people in the suburbs, okay, about crime as well. All right. This is why I said defund the police is one of the dumbest slogans I've ever heard in my life, because you don't understand how you give a huge opening to Republicans that have a history of accusing Democrats of being soft on crime. And we see it going back. They're running the Southern strategy once again. So yeah,
absolutely.
This was crucial.
Brother Michael Imhotep of the African History Network. Folks, make sure y'all tune in to what Brother Michael is saying. Make sure y'all tune in to just follow him on social media, join his online classes, and all of that he's doing. And more importantly, tune in tomorrow as we have our Election Day coverage, Black Votes Matter, here on the Black Star Network. My brother.
All right, man.
I want you on Mondays, Brother Michael. Can we make that happen?
We can do Monday. Next Monday. I know we could definitely do, and I'll check and see. We could do each Monday. So
that would be good, man.
But we do next Monday. We can definitely do next Monday.
Next Monday. All right, cool. We definitely we're gonna need to deconstruct, as Roland does, what just happened this week.
You have to deconstruct, and you have to understand history. You have to understand history and politics to be able to do this, and law. Okay, this is why when I hear people say we want race, we only want policies for Black people. Okay, obviously you never read the 1964 Civil Rights Act, Section 601, Title 6, non-discrimination and federally assisted programs. It's illegal to have race-based programs at the federal level. It's illegal to have programs for only one race of people, but you can have programs like the executive order that Biden did for student loan forgiveness that disproportionately helps African Americans. Because when he added the forgiveness, if you got a Pell Grant, well, 72% of African Americans who go to college use Pell Grants. Okay, so what he did is going to move 500,000 African American families from a negative net worth to a positive net worth. It's going to wipe out the remaining student loan debt for a little more than 25% of African Americans with student loan debt. That's something powerful that he did with an executive order, but you have Republicans who are filing lawsuits to block the student loan forgiveness. Right. You have 5 Republicans in the Senate who drafted a bill. They want to strip Biden of the ability to give student loan forgiveness, and they don't want student loan forgiveness. So we have to understand whose policies are most beneficial for us. Okay. This is nobody's perfect. Do not compare Democrats to perfection. Don't compare them to the almighty. Compare them to the alternative, because the alternative are Republicans and their policies.
I love it. Absolutely. Brother Michael Imhotep, always good to hear from you, God. And I appreciate you. Thank you, brother.
Thanks for having me. God willing. All right, everybody. Peace.
All right, folks.
Go vote.
Sir, peace. Yeah, absolutely. Folks, I thank y'all. Man, we had a great show today. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. All of our new watchers, welcome to the show. If this is your first time watching, maybe your second time watching, if your first time chatting, and if we were able to shout out your thoughts, welcome. This is what we do. This is our one-on-one conversation that we had about voting, because I want us to just stay focused. You know what I mean? We can hear all the thrills and frills, and I didn't want to bring 1,000 people on to talk about it. I want you to think, folks. When you go to the polls tomorrow, think about yourself, think about your family, think about your community. I want you to think. I want you to think and be clear about what your interests are. I want you to think. I think who has the better program, or who can help you get closer to the world that you want to live in. That's what I want you to think about. I want you to think about, you can think about the history, you can think about the sacrifices, but I want you to think about you and really be clear about where you stand on these issues. I want you to think. And then after you think and after you cast that vote, I want you to recommit. I want you, because I know it feels like we're just pushing a boulder up a hill, but I want you to recommit to the great movement that we are all a part of, the great struggle. which is freedom, justice, and equality, with his life and liberation, which is having, the great pursuit of happiness and having access to knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. I want you to recommit to making sure that you are a part of this. And I've said it. I said it that in order for a democracy or any form of government to work, you have to have an informed and educated citizenry. And that's the place that we're in. Because when the system falls apart, the people must come together. And that's what I want you to think about tomorrow. So, it is going to be election day. We're going to have our round-the-clock coverage. Make sure y'all tune in tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, here on The Culture. Then just keep it going, because we're going to be checking in with RMU tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Then we switch over to our election day coverage from 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 1 a.m. Take a look at this, folks. Black votes matter. That's all it is. That's where we are. Black votes matter. Makes all the difference in the world. Join us for this very, very special election night coverage. All right, folks. I didn't even put myself out there, but make sure y'all follow us, Black Star Network. Make sure you follow us on socials, on IG, on Twitter, Black Star Network. You can follow us. Make sure you follow Brother Roland if you haven't done that so far. And follow yours truly, Farajii Muhammad. You can find me on IG at The Real Farajii, Twitter on Farajii Muhammad, at Farajii, and on Facebook, Farajii Muhammad. Make sure that y'all tune in and follow me, and let's continue to build. This week also, all right, I got a lot of submissions. We got a lot of submissions. So we got to start bringing some voices on this week. We got to figure out who going to be on, because y'all submitted, y'all responded to the call, and I'm so grateful and so happy to tell me what we're missing. So we're going to be kicking that off this week as well, God willing. We got a lot of submissions to go through, got a lot of voices for y'all to hear. Y'all, some of you may be familiar with these voices, but to have them on air with us, woo! It's a great time. It's a great time, especially after this election. It's a great time. So definitely stay tuned for that. God willing, happening this week. All right, that's going to do it for me. I thank each and every one of you. I thank my dynamic team, Joel, King Keenan, Ariel. Thank you for my control room, for those guys for continuing to do the great work of making us look and sound good. Thank you. And as always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture, right on Election Day, here on your source for news and information, the Black Star Network. Make sure y'all tune in for that. Tune in for Roland Martin Unfiltered coming up next here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you soon, family. Peace.